Everyone, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make this baby's breath bracelet. It is a beautiful, simple design, and it is actually one of the subscription box kits for this month if you subscribe to the kit box. So gather your box. If you need materials or want to subscribe, go ahead and look below in the description, and let's get ready to make this breathtaking bracelet. So to get started, we are starting with 3 simple materials. We have 8mm pearls, 4mm round crystals, and Delica beads in an 11/0 size. I have a fantastically beautiful Claspgarten clasp. There's so many different Claspgarten clasps that are great, that are a beautiful addition to this baby's breath bracelet. We are going to be doing 2 needles. You don't have to do 2 needles. You can do 1 if you know right angle weave, but I think this makes it really, really easy. So we're going to do the clasp here, and we are coming out of the bottom of the clasp with 2 threads. What that is that I've put onto the end of a 4-foot piece of thread, you can use less too, 2 size 10 needles. On those 2 size 10 needles, you're going to make sure that you have the same amount on either side after going through one end of your clasp. From there, go ahead and put on 1 4mm bead that goes right to the end, needles going through the same direction and coming out the same thread. From there, on both the right and the left needle, we're going to separate them and add 2 of our Delica beads, followed by 1 4mm crystal, followed by 3 Delica beads. We're going to start a crisscross pattern where we go in and we add our 8mm pearl there, 1 through one direction, 1 through the other, and pull those down towards the clasp. You're going to want to make sure that you don't have any extra thread showing. So if you're using a different size bead or anything like that, just make sure when you pull it that the pearls are right to the edge and you don't see a lot of extra thread. From here, we're going to keep it really, really simple. And to keep it really simple and to go with this baby's breath theme, we're just going with 1, 2, and 3 of our Delica beads on each needle. Once you have those 3 Delica beads on your needle, you're going to add 1 of your 4mm beads to each side, right and left. And then you're going to repeat 1, 2, 1, 2. And this time we're crisscrossing through the next 4mm. So this one here, we went the same direction. We're going to crisscross through that 4mm. That's going to bring our thread and needle in towards the center and basically encapsulate those pearls. From here, we're on repeat. So you're doing 1, 2, then your 4mm, 1, 2, 3. Same thing on both the right and the left needle. 1, 2, crystal. 1, 2, 3, pearl. The pearl that we pick up in between is going to be the same as the crystal that you're doing, where you're going to go 1 needle from left to right and the other needle from right to left. And as you work with the pearls, don't worry about those little tails that stick out. That's from the coating process, which is done on the strings. Just ignore that. It'll come off as it rubs against your Delica beads and your thread as well too. So you might see like little flecks of that. That's just what's right there near the end. From here, we're on autopilot and repeat, just doing this very simple baby's breath pattern. Once you get to the end of the project here, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pearls for a standard size wrist, we have on 3 of our 11/0 Delicas. Then we have on our crystals, then 2 11/0 Delicas. Then the next crystal, just like we started, we're going to end where we sew through that crystal in the same direction. Give a nice tight pull on your thread, making sure that it's tightened. And you will see there is some buoyancy to this, and it'll be tightened up as we go back down the project. Take both of these needles here, go through the other side of your clasp, going back through that first 4mm round that we just took them through, same direction. Give a nice tight pull to tighten up any thread. I like to pull both threads and then I separate them pull one, and then the other thread. After you're done coming out of the clasp, you have the option to add another layer of crystals or just stop. I added another layer just to show you what it looks like, kind of encapsulating the pearl here. Now, when you're out of the clasp, you're starting in the same exact way. If you are not going to, I'm going to reinforce the thread and go the whole way to the end and loop through the clasp again. If you're going to add another layer of crystals on top, the pattern coming out of the clasp is going to be to separate out your needles right to left, go through the pearl, and then coming out the pearl, we're going to add 4 seed beads on both the right and the left needle, go through a crystal in the same way, 1 Delica on each, crisscross again. I'm going to do a full one, so that one's just a half version. We're going to do a full one now on our next open spot. So coming out of the crystal here, we're going to add 1 of our Delica bead on the right needle, 1 on the left. We're going to add 1 crystal where we have the needles going through the crystal in the same direction. So both needles are going through toward the bracelet as I'm building it. Pushing that down along the bottom, we're going to separate out our needles again, and we are going to add 4 of our Delica beads to each needle. Once we have those 4 Delica beads on each needle, we're going to take the needle and thread, and we're going to crisscross through that pearl. So we're coming out of the crystal here. I know it's hard to see because it's crystal, always a challenge. You're going to sew through the pearl on the right hand side with the seed beads that are going to sit to the right, and you're going to sew through the left with the pearl with the crystals that are going to sit to the left. Get those materials out of there. Nice tight pull, and see how you kind of have to just bring it back to center a little bit. That goes in and decorates that extra little pearl. So coming out of it, we're going to do the exact same thing, but backwards. And this little cluster of crystals is why I called it baby's breath, because it's the colors and just those clusters that kind of go everywhere. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4 Delicas with your right needle. On goes a crystal. On goes an 11 Delica. From here, the right needle or the left needle, 1, 2, 3, and 4 Delicas. We're going to sew through that same crystal that's already there. We're sharing it. Same direction, so we don't crisscross through the crystal. Same directions. Pull it nice and tight down on top of that pearl. It captures in the pearl beautifully. Add a Delica, because you already have one on the opposite side. And then you're going to sew through the 4mm crystal that's already there. One from the right to the left, and the other from the left to the right. Making sure as you go through and you come out there that you're not sewing through the Delicas that's already there. And then see that little extra space and thread? Pulling it down nice and tight and even on each side to capsulate and capture in that nice pearl look. Pulling back the camera just a little bit too, you can see kind of that detail that it becomes a little bit 3-dimensional with the pearls on the bottom and those nice caps and that baby breath look on top. Once you get to the end of the bracelet design here, you can see the pearls along the back and then that nice look of the links of that baby's breath. Now we're coming out of the last pearl. And if you want to, you can decorate that other side of the pearl, but I didn't want to make the bracelet too heavy down there and share in that crystal space, making it harder to get on your clasp and your bracelet. So once you're done, I'm going to go up through the right side, going underneath the clasp, coming out through that last bead. And then I'm going to go back down through the crystal and over towards the pearl, towards the left-hand side. I'm going to do and come out right before the pearl. I'm going to do the opposite and the same thing on the other side. Going through the pearl. Here and coming out, going, sorry, that one was already through the pearl. Going up through the side here. Going from the front of the clasp to the back of the clasp, making sure that I'm catching through it. This will get 3 strands through here to reinforce. Down through the clasp then, and the opposite side. Coming out through the pearl. And done. The positive thing with the 2 needles and with having all white beads and white thread is that, yes, it makes it a little bit harder to see, but you can take that needle and thread and take those needles off. Tie the thread ends right next to the pearl here. If you want, you can tuck them back in and separate them at 2 different spots. I'm going to tie a nice tight thread here. Grab your thread zap or your thread burner. If you don't have one, make sure you grab one. They are amazing. Burn down those thread ends nice and close to the project and flush against the pearl. And that's it. That is our beautiful baby's breath bracelet. Thanks so much for joining me in creating this baby's breath bracelet. Remember, if you do need any supplies or want to check out our kit subscription, go ahead and look below the video in the description there. It'll give you links back to our site. You can also do this in so many different colors if you don't want to just do the crystal and white gilded look. Remember, if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on Potomac Beads. And I can't wait to see some of the different color variations and your own designs in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.